It's day late and a dollar short. We are back for the last time in 2022. Technically, it's 2023, but for the 2022 season, the Vikings have in some ways, surprising, but in other ways not, loss to the New York Giants yesterday evening in Minneapolis. Jordan, I mean, it was like we've talked about it. The season's been a blast. The game was stressful, as they all have been. It was tightly contested, as most of them have been, and there's nothing really to hang your head about. But also at the same time, it's a really disappointing way to end the year.
Yeah, I think that I was telling you before we kick things off here today that my viewpoint on it was kind of it wasn't like I was, oh my gosh, I really thought this was the year we were gonna win the Super Bowl. It was more of like a, man, that stinks that this season's over because it's been so fun, and like the defense
Yeah.
is comically bad, but they get so many turnovers that like they almost redeem them. They usually do redeem themselves, like at the end of the game whenever like Pat Pete would get a big pick or something. And, the offense, it just felt like if you gave them the ball and you told them you have to get seven, they got seven all season long. Roughly 11 times that happened. Well, it was a gotta have it situation, and the offense got it for the to win the game. And of course, there is no better fitting into the Vikings season than a one score loss, making us 11-1 on the season. The magic carpet ride is over. Team of Destiny is dead. All the narratives are put to bed. I have a question for you before we talk about this game, and we're gonna avoid going into the future tonight. Because we're gonna save that because there's a whole off season to talk about what's happening and what we think is gonna happen and all that kind of thing. Well, the 13 and 4 Minnesota Vikings frauds.
Absolutely not. I think that narrative was silly from the get go. Um, I suppose if you define fraud as anything that is not the Kansas City Chiefs, then sure. But that would mean about 2/3 of the playoff teams were frauds. So
Absolutely.
I um I don't think this team ever was top three in the league. I don't think they ever had a chance to really win the Super Bowl with the defense that they deployed each and every week. But to call them frauds, I think, is a little bit of a lazy and tired and kind of just I guess we'll just call it a lazy narrative that was just sort of easy to roll out there every week when they came up with these tight wins. Because because the thing with the Vikings was, sure, they got outscored, they got blown out 3 times, lost their home playoff game. But to win 11 one-score games is a skill. It doesn't look like, the same skills that we see on, in each and every play, from arm talent to route running ability to tackling to ball skills to X, Y, and Z. However, the NFL has the margins, the width of a human hair. And so if you can go out there and you can win one-score games each and every week, that's a skill. At a certain point, it's not luck, and at a certain point, it's not fraudulent. And it just goes to show that this team was not talented enough to really go all the way, because when they don't take care of every margin and they don't get takeaways on defense, it's a long day. Because what was the difference between this game and the first Giants game?
An
We got 2
interception.
takeaways. Exactly. We got the fumble and we got the interception. Gave up about the same amount of yards. Got gashed by the same amount of big plays. But there was 2 turnovers in the first game, and this one there was not. The offense was honestly probably better this time around than it was the first time. So, yeah, I don't think the team was frauds. I think they were just incomplete, and I think they really made lemonade with some lemons this year. It was pretty remarkable to win 13 games with the frankly, you call it the nursing home defense that we rolled out there.
Yeah. It was the all nursing home because if they are good players for their age, but they are old, and
Yep.
I think that really bit us, and I think that that's been a theme all season is guys are a step or two behind, and yesterday it felt like Patrick
Yeah.
Peterson was consistently 15 steps behind his man, and
Yeah.
it was really sad. And I've seen some people pooping on Eric Kendricks, and I don't think it's entirely fair. I've seen a lot of people questioning his like football IQ. I do not question that for a second. It was sad to watch a man know what he needed to do and see his body fail him. It just is.
Yep.
I don't know if you've ever seen your dad try and get off a couch and he just struggles. It was like that experience because Eric Kendricks, I've said it on this show, he was my favorite Viking for a long time. And I loved him coming out of the draft. I loved him, he was so athletic and he was just a different breed of linebacker that I felt was not really seen before in the Vikings history. The NFL had started moving that way to like the smaller, more athletic linebacker. But, he wasn't Chad Greenway. He wasn't, Henderson, like one of them, like these hawking guys. And so to see him lose that speed, that was really the thing that made him good at his job. He's toast. He's just toast.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that. Yep. And I mean that with respect. I mean, let's get real. These guys are still elite athletes. These guys can still probably contribute in some way to a football team. I'm just, for the Vikings, there's no way you can have Eric Kendricks play next season. I told you I was going to say it at least once. I was going to get into the future looking stuff. So, getting into the frauds thing super quickly because I do want to say one thing about it. I think this Vikings team should have won 9 or 10 games and should have been in a fight to the very last second with the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers for the division. A lot of those games bounced our way. A lot of the games were just weird. Like, you don't go down 33-0 and win, but on the flip side, you usually don't go down 33-0 to one of the worst teams in the NFL. It was just a weird season, and I don't know which one of these one-score games to chalk up as probably should have been a loss and probably should have been a win, because it was just a funny season, and it was electric. Yeah. It was electric the whole time. So I don't think frauds is right. But, like, we had a better point differential than the New York Giants. And so we were probably in that same range of fringe wild card, bad division winner, that type of thing. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that.
I mean, the fraudulent discussion doesn't occur if the Vikings aren't winning one-score games. That's the kind of silly thing about it is if they win about half their one-score games and, end up with 8 to 10 wins, no one calls them frauds. Everyone just calls them average.
Yep.
So it's sort of a silly debate.
They might even say that's the team you don't want to play in the playoffs because that's pretty much what the Giants are. And, now the narrative is no one wants to see Daniel Jones in the playoffs. Like,
yeah. Well, quick thing on Daniel Jones. I think everyone will realize how fraudulent the Vikings defense is after the Giants score 12 points against the Eagles next week. Let's just wait till Saturday and we'll see how bad the Vikings defense was. But speaking of that defense, I wanted to ask you, apart from a new coach or a new scheme or younger, faster players, what would you have liked to see yesterday to potentially give the Vikings a better chance to stop the Giants?
Oh, see, that's a loaded question because the answer, not loaded, but it's not a bad question. It's a good question.
It's stacked against you.
It is stacked because the answer is a different scheme for the old players. Oh, younger, faster play. I think the best answer I can give is Brian Asamoah just playing instead of Jordan Hicks or Eric Kendricks. Because I think we needed that speed out there. And you're not going to bench Patrick Peterson. I don't think you're going to bench Eric Kendricks. I mean, let's be realistic. This isn't Madden. This isn't like these are real humans that you're dealing with that you have to tell, hey, you don't get to play football for us at a high level anymore. We're going to bench you. We're going to these are tough conversations and not always easy. But I think at some point you have to say we are the second worst defense in the league. It is time to. What's the worst thing that happens? We have the high football IQ and low athleticism. Well, maybe we get lower football IQ but higher athleticism. But maybe the football IQ isn't that low because they play. Brian Asamoah, I believe that he went to Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Yeah, so like he's played in big games. It's not like it's not like he went to Appalachian State, which is an Easter egg for mock drafts of the future because of whatever. But like he's played in important games. Let him get in there. You played him a lot against the Giants the first time, and I really think you needed that athleticism. I think the Vikings. They just needed a youth infusion on the defense this season, and I don't think they did because I don't think anybody thought the competitive rebuild was going to be a 13-win season with a home playoff game. I think everybody expected maybe best case scenario fringe wild card team that sneaks in and gets demolished by San Francisco. Not this. Not a 13-win. Everybody in the league is now pointing at you laughing saying, "Oh, you're frauds." It's like we have a first-year head coach. We have a first-year general manager. Everything is different. We should be in the same boat as the Houston Texans, but we're not because we have talent. We just need to, trim some fat, get a little younger, and hope that the guys that we drafted this year get better next year.
Yeah, a couple things to point out with that. I wanted to write about this season before the playoff game because I wanted to make sure that I encapsulated my thoughts before I got emotional, right? Win or lose in the playoffs, it completely skews your perception of how the first 17 games went. And I have a piece on VikingsTerritory.com that kind of recaps the season in terms of, frankly, the success story that it was. And I'll drop that there and leave it. Go check it out, read the story. It was a fun one to write because you're able to recap and recount all these sort of strange, miraculous things that happened. And talking about the Kevin O'Connell thing, rookie head coach. Someone pointed this out to me, and then I kind of recounted it on Twitter today that Sean McVay's first season as the Rams head coach, they had a home playoff game and they lost to the Atlanta Falcons. That was 2017. The following season, the Rams made the Super Bowl. 3 seasons later, they won the Super Bowl. And so by no means does that mean the Vikings will win the Super Bowl in 4 years or anything like that. But what it does mean is that just because you have a disappointing end to a somewhat surprisingly successful season does not mean that this team won't be back. And there's so much to build on. You're a coach like O'Connell and a quarterback like Cousins, assuming he's back, that are very hard on themselves and don't take winning or losing lightly. You can be darn sure that they're going to learn from this season, not only this game, and be able to move forward and have adjustments and get better as their time together continues. And even just, O'Connell by himself as his career as a coach continues. I mean, he's coached 18 professional football games that matter. And there were some issues yesterday that, with play calling potentially that you'd want to see cleaned up, but it's not the reason we lost the game. It's part of the reason, if you have a better play call on 3rd and 1 instead of a backwards pass from Justin Jefferson to Kirk Cousins, then, maybe that drive moves. Or, on the last play of the game, if you don't call sort of a 3 vertical route and you get somebody closer to the sticks, maybe you're moving the chains on that drive and you still have a chance to punch it in. Or so there's some things like that where maybe a play call here or there could have been made better. But the thing that I've learned from O'Connell this year is that he's going to learn and he's going to get better. So I'm not predicting Super Bowl next year by any stretch. I think this division is going to be tough, tougher. I think the Bears will still be bad, but I think they'll be better. I think the Lions will be really tough. And depending on what happens with the, Aaron Rodgers drama in the next few months, I think the Packers will be, they're always there. So,
yeah. I have I have a Chicago take that I don't know if I gave it on the show or if I rambled it to myself on the highway on my way home from work like a week or 2 ago. But I think Chicago is going to win 5 games next season, and 3 of them are going to be against the NFC North. They're going to split in the division next season, and whether they keep Justin Fields, whether they trade him and keep the number 1 pick, I don't care what they do. I just think that they are going to I think that they are going to be a better team than they were this season. And I don't know if they're going to sweep us and like beat the Packers and get swept by the Lions. I don't know where those 3 wins come. I'm not saying that they go, kind of like the Vikings. Oh no. Yeah, kind of like the Vikings. Like we didn't sweep anybody, but we still went 4. We swept the Bears only, and we went 4-2 in our division. I think Chicago's going to play spoiler late for somebody. Like I think it's going to be a 2 or 3 team race, and somebody's going to have to beat Chicago to stay, maybe even in the playoff hunt. And Chicago's going to slam the door on somebody. And I am praying to the Heavenly Father, it is not us. I cannot handle getting eliminated from the playoffs by Justin Fields. Not yet.
Yeah.
Not ever. Let's talk about something, Will, because it's the elephant in the room. We haven't brought it up yet. What the hell was Kirk Cousins doing on 4th and 8? Throwing the check down. Some people think he's the biggest idiot in the world. Some people think O'Connell's an idiot. Some people think he was hearing footsteps. What is your take on it? And then I'll get into mine.
Yes, we needed to talk about it. You can't avoid the question. I think, speaking of avoiding the question, he was asked this very question, of course, as was O'Connell. O'Connell talked about the play design. He didn't, after the game, he says he, regrets it, wish he would have drawn something up better, and he put it on him. And that's typical Kevin O'Connell, right? He takes the bullet, gets in front of the bus for his team, his quarterback. That's just the way he operates. I take more from what Kirk Cousins said, and he is never someone to throw somebody else under the bus. So of course he's not going to. His answer was simply, I was trying to work it to Justin. Obviously that means Justin Jefferson. But it wasn't there. And, we can pause there in that statement, right? If it wasn't there, you can say, okay, it wasn't there, but also you could still give Jefferson a chance. There's reason to believe, a la Buffalo, that you just give the guy a chance and you live with the result. So he can definitely take some fault for that. But what I will say is, so the rest of his quote was, Justin wasn't there. And at that point, I felt I was going to get sacked. There was somebody coming from behind him, and Dexter Lawrence was in his face. So he said, I just wanted to put the ball in play. You can't go down with a sack, and so you got to just see what happens. And I don't fault him for it. I defend Kirk Cousins probably more than the average person, and so I know there's probably a little bias in how I'm looking at it, so I have to own that. But also, I don't fault him for throwing the ball to a player who had 129 receiving yards on the day, broke multiple tackles for first downs on 3rd and longs, was able to catch the ball in front of the sticks and make something happen multiple times. That's about as good as you can get when it comes to a quote unquote check down. And the other thing when it comes to just, maybe you don't throw it to TJ, but you throw it past the sticks to Osborne. He might've had a step. Maybe, but the previous throw to Osborne was a contested catch a little bit behind him that he didn't bring in. Sure, the throw should have been better, and Cousins lamented that one after and wished he had that one back. But do you give Osborne another contested catch with the season on the line? Maybe you do. Maybe you have to take that risk. And Cousins is probably going to have to mull that play over in his mind 100 times between now and mini camp. But my take on the situation is I think most of the blame needs to go to the play call. And then, of course, some of the blame has to go to Cousins for throwing it short of the sticks. But also a lot of the credit just has to go to the Giants. They played very well in the back end and forced Cousins to really, rely on Hawkinson most of the day. And obviously it amounted to some good success, but the Giants were able to make plays when they needed to. They took Jefferson out of the game for about the last, 18 minutes, and as they did on that last play. So all that being said, I'd say, most of the blame to O'Connell and the play call, a little bit to Cousins, and a lot of credit to the Giants.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it is if it's a pie, I don't think it's 100%, Coke is with a Z, dumb, with a backwards D, so bum. But O'Connell has to call a better play there, and I think the Vikings, in that situation, you have to recognize All right, who's our number one guy? It's Justin Jefferson. They have a safety over top of him. I watched the play 100 times this morning. He wasn't triple covered in that if Cousins would have let the ball go to him, he would have been fighting with two giants to make the catch, because there was, I don't know if it was a safety or if it was they had like three guys on his side of the field, one guy on him like man to man, a safety that was breaking his direction as Jefferson got to like the break in his route, and then there was another guy just kind of over towards that side of the field. You have to recognize, okay, Jefferson, he's got three guys over there on that side of the field. Maybe he's out of the play. You make that read, you make it kind of quick, you move on. You then have to ask yourself, who is our number two option? Not wide receiver, who's the number two option? It's TJ Hawkinson. He's been a stud all day. Why is TJ Hawkinson running what should be just a distraction route on the most important play of your entire season? You gave a second-round pick for this guy to get him mid-season. You gave a second-round pick to a division rival who might go draft a Hall of Famer that's going to smoke you for the next 20 years for all you know. And you have to have him run a route past the sticks, in my opinion. I don't know if that means you put Johnny Munt in there to run that route that he's running, and then you have Hawkinson run. You have to call a play that has Jefferson as the one option, Hawkinson as the two, and then you can look at KJ and Thielen, because I do think that, like, you have to remember he was getting pressured. And I've done a 180. I'm not mad at Kirk anymore. I am mad at Kirk, but I'm not mad at Kirk. I would rather him throw it to triple coverage to JJ past the sticks than a check down to Hawkinson. No matter the that's how I view it. You have to go past the sticks on those situations. Anyway, I just don't understand why Hawkinson was on that route. Hawkinson should have been past the sticks. He's a big body tight end. They're gonna have a counter on him. He's a mismatch. You have to I think the Chiefs do a really good job of this, of being like, yeah, Travis Kelce's our number one option, so we're going to treat him like a number one option. Like, I don't know his play breakdowns, but I watch the Chiefs because they're on prime time every week. You don't see Travis Kelce catching a lot of, like, flat routes, I feel like. I feel like they dominate him over the middle, and they send him deep, and they have him do a lot. And so, I don't know. I just would have rather have seen Hawkinson going down past the sticks on that play than I would have just sitting in the flat, because I agree with you. He was going off yesterday. He was having a great game, and we needed him to, and he was delivering. And so I just don't love the play call. I think, and like you said, O'Connell is going to learn from it, and maybe next time you can't send everybody past the sticks, because then the entire defense goes past the sticks. So like, you have to have somebody down there, and that's why Dalvin was in the flats, and you have to have KJ maybe on a flat route. But no, I mean, I don't know. I just disagree with the play call wholeheartedly, and going back a drive as well to keep dumping on Kevin O'Connell after he won my team 13 games this season. What are we doing? We're one of the worst screen teams in the entire NFL, and we get the ball with an opportunity to tie it with however many minutes left in the fourth quarter, late in the game, and we throw a screen to the running back, and then we throw a screen to the tight end, and what? The drive's over. The drive's dead there. Like, what are you doing? Like, that was honestly more frustrating than the fourth down call looking back, because you had a golden opportunity to do that and then give yourself a chance to win maybe on the back end. And oh man, just very frustrating. It was a very frustrating day, and I'm getting back in my emotions now. It's all coming back up. Oh man, it was bad.
I think you're right on with that. I think it's I mean, it's an opportunity to learn. I think, and we're so used to this team pulling these out. I mean, it just became like clockwork. It's like, all right, well, we're down by 7 with 5 minutes left. Well, we're going to go tie it, and then we'll probably get a stop and get the ball back and get a field goal with no time left. Like, that's just kind of what you expect. And
I had no doubts that we were going to. I had no doubts we were going to score on that drive. I'm going to be completely candid. We were talking in my father's living room, like me, him, and my brother were watching the game, and the question was, before the roughing the passer, they gave us the ball back, and we said, "Do we go for 2 if we score?" Like, and we didn't say when we score, because you don't want to jinx it, but like, we were already talking about, like, do you go for 2 and like try and get a 1-point game and hope your defense can get a stop with whatever. Like, we, like you said, we just expect it to happen because it's happened so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's another it's another anecdote to the and a thorn in the side of the fraudulent argument. Fraudulent teams don't have 8 fourth quarter comebacks. Just doesn't happen. Fraudulent teams are the ones holding on for dear life because they've squandered a 20-point fourth quarter comeback. That's the 20-point fourth quarter lead. So it's it was in a way strange and almost like you couldn't believe it when it happened because you're just expecting it. You're kind of just like sitting there like, okay, we're going to score, right? And then when it doesn't happen, you kind of are like, okay, well, there's got to be enough time left, or there's got to be enough timeouts left. And eventually the clock on the season ran out. And yeah, I mean, it was a blast. And I think to be able to look back on it with fondness, and right now it stings for the players and the coaches. And I mean, if it stings for us, it definitely stings for them. But I mean, hey, I had a blast doing this with you this year, and in a way, it makes the whole thing sting a little more, just because when you get invested and you watch every press conference and watch every game and rewatch games and get fully invested in something, you kind of feel like you're a part of the team to a certain degree. Yep. And I was joking with one of my friends, like I should have learned, when you get invested, things like this hurt a lot more. I got very invested in the 2020 Twins. That was the COVID year, right? They played 60 games. It was a short season. I watched portions of every game that season. When the playoffs ended, it was heartbreaking because I felt like I was so invested in it. So, I should have learned, right?
And it's not like you can just so today at work, I don't anymore because now I have to come and I have to reopen up the wound and I have to talk about it with you. But especially living in Ohio, I can kind of avoid the Vikings if I want to. I can hide from it. And today at work, somebody said, because I wore, this is what I wore from work, or to work. I wore a Vikings shirt. I'm not going to, hide my fandom or anything like that. And I love this pullover. But, somebody was like, what happened to your Vikings? And I said, they suck. And I kept going about my day. And that was it. I didn't want to talk about it. So I kept it short. And I just didn't want to talk about it. And so whenever you do the show, I took the 2018 season. It was the season where first Cousins season. I was like, oh my gosh, we're winning the Super Bowl. And I think that's why I dislike Kirk Cousins, is because I expected him to already have won me at 3 of these things, and we haven't gotten past the divisional round, and it hurts because I want to win a Super Bowl really bad, because I would buy goggles and I would pop champagne and it would be a great time. So, but like you said, it just stings so bad because you have to talk about it and you have to research what happened and you have to keep doing it. And we have 2 comments really quickly. Jeffrey Hawthorne is both of the comments. He says, great season, worst Vikings defense to ever make the playoffs. And then he says he has seen every playoff Vikings team since 1974. And he should probably point out he's seen every Vikings team since 1974. I have never seen this man take a season off from the Vikings for any reason. So yesterday he was wearing a signed Bud Grant helmet during the game.
Wow. During the game.
During the game. He was taking pass blocking reps.
Mad respect to Mr. Hawthorne.
It was very fun. And it was a good time. But I'm going to pass it off to you. I'm going to let you get your final thoughts, and then I'll kind of put a bow on this season, which is bittersweet to say.
Yeah, just I've said everything. I've rehashed all the good things. We've lamented the terrible defense. Jordan, you'll probably talk about something similar, but next week we're going to be getting into sort of what's next. It's sort of a painful thing to already have to do, and kind of got to rewire your brain and look ahead. But we want to start but looking forward to what this team might need to do better. And one thing that I will say right off the jump is the Vikings will need to get another dynamic receiver option, whether it's the draft, free agency, or trade. It needs to happen. Part of the reason why these Justin Jefferson games, he had about maybe 4 of them this year where he was sort of a non-factor and was taken out of the game. These can happen because the other teams don't respect anybody else on the outside. KJ Osborne had a couple nice games this year. Adam Thielen had flashes, but those guys aren't going to be able to scare a defense. And so whether you go get DeAndre Hopkins or you go get a burner in the draft, there's got to be somebody to help open things up for Justin Jefferson. So that's a sneak preview of what we're going to talk about next week. Jordan, I'm sure you've got something similar.
Yeah, so really quickly, follow the show on Twitter at LTB Vikings. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. Please go follow my wonderful co-host on Twitter at Will Badlose, and then also check out the Bad Loser blog and Vikings Territory. And thank you for Unified Athletic Wear. Oh, I would never forget about our friends over at Unified. Thank you for Go ahead.
One quick thing on the Bad Loser blog. My younger brother, Danny, he's been on the show. You saw him Thanksgiving week. He came out with his first post on the Bad Loser blog. Saturday morning it came out, previewing the NFL playoffs. Check it out. It's great. Good stuff. Go look at it. Yes, I posted absolutely. On Facebook. It's also on just, Bad Loser blog. So
yeah, check out the Bad Loser blog and check out Danny making his journalistic debut, if I may. That's amazing. Good job, Danny, and future is bright for him for sure. And then thank you to Unified. It's been a great season partnering with them, and love what they do. Check them out if you need anything. Just anything. I mean, they're just good people. If you need jerseys though, they're definitely good people. Anyway, let's quickly recap this. Vikings, it sucks that the season's over. It was a very, very fun season, but like Will said, load the box. We will have kind of an off season, as in the content will start getting very sporadic almost. While I'm sure that there will be a week where we will put on our Twitter account we don't know what to talk about, and we're not going to hash up should the Vikings trade Cousins? Well, he's got a no trade clause, so let's not even talk about it. So we're not gonna false content at you. I will say we're gonna cover the draft. I'm kind of the draft nerd. Will is, I think, less of the draft nerd, so I think I'm gonna try and talk him into some prospects that I really like. It's gonna be fun, same way it always is. It's gonna be fun up until the draft, and then the draft will hit. We'll do a couple of shows after that, talking about how excited we are for the football season, and then baseball starts, and then golf starts, and then life takes over, and then I'm gonna have a baby this summer, and I'm very excited about that. And so and then we'll be back around mini camp and around all that stuff, and we'll start getting, and that purple Kool-Aid will start getting sprinkled into the water, and then all of a sudden it's the season and the Vikings are getting eliminated in the divisional round. We know the drill. It's like clockwork at this point, but we'll see what happens. Want to thank Will for an amazing 2022/23 season. This has definitely been a blast, and we will be back next Monday. I think next Monday we're going to do a full season recap, if that's correct.
Yep.
But that's subject to change. Well, that's production meeting stuff. But thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for tuning in all season long. We really appreciate it. We love all of the fans. And I'll leave you for the last time for this NFL season with a skull, y'all.